Welcome to Big Data lecture series. So now we are having a subject called Big Data Analytics, which is going to be offered for 4th year BTech first semester students. So in this subject we will see the evaluation of big data and various big data tools are going to be discussed throughout the syllabus. Now in this session we are going to see the unit number 1, that is Introduction to Big Data and Basic Concepts of Big Data. Let's have a look on the overview of the syllabus. So this unit is composed with 5 units, and each and every unit is having specific topics. We will see the basic overview of each and every topic. So in this unit number 1, we are going to discuss about the introduction of big data concept, that is what is big data, why we are using big data, what is the use of big data, what are the application areas of big data are going to be discussed, and what is the role of big data analytics, how the analytics are going to be performed using the tools in big data analytics. So in this unit number 1, we will see the introduction to big data and analytics, big data analytics. When you move to second unit, here this unit completely focuses on Hadoop environment. That means how Hadoop is going to be implemented, installation of Hadoop, Hadoop distribution file system, that is HDFS architecture, and other file systems like AAN. These are the more concepts are going to be discussed in detail in unit number 2. When you move to third unit, another big data tool which is used in big data framework is MapReduce. The implementation of MapReduce, basic programming concepts in MapReduce, how programs are going to be executed, how the installation is going to be done is going to be discussed in unit number 3. In unit number 4, we will see the 2 advanced tools in big data environment. They are Pig and Hive. These 2 tools are also used to perform big data analytical activities. And finally, in unit number 5, we will see the introduction of another data mining tool, big data tool called Spark, how the Spark is going to be used, how the programming concepts are going to be implemented in Spark, how it is going to be implemented in real-time applications is going to be covered. So these are the basic covering concepts in the entire syllabus. Now we will see the learning objectives and learning outcomes of the unit. So in these learning objectives, the mainly will focus on about structured data, how the structured data is going to be generated in real-time applications, and what are the major sources of structured data, and what is an advantages of using structured data are going to be discussed in detail. And another objective is we will deal about what are the different data sources which are going to be generated called semi-structured data, what are the major sources of semi-structured data, what are the characteristics of semi-structured data are going to be discussed in detail, and last we are going to see the unstructured data. That means what are the sources of unstructured data which will generate data in real-time applications, what are the major issues related with unstructured data, and how to handle and how to deal unstructured data when it is going to be generated in enormous size. So these 3 are the learning objectives. And the learning outcomes of the unit are, upon completion of this unit, we are going to know about, we are going to differentiate the operational activity and working environment of both structured and semi-structured and unstructured. That means we will see the basic technical differences between structured, semi-structured and unstructured. And we are also able to see the how to integrate all the 3 different types of data sources like structured, semi-structured and unstructured. So these are the 2 major outcomes of this unit. Let's have a look on this agenda. Now what are the concepts which we are going to cover in this session? Mostly we will see the sources of structured data, advantages of structured data. When we move to semi-structured data, what are the major sources of structured data are going to be discussed with examples. And when you move to the third category, that is called unstructured data, what are the major sources of unstructured data and how to handle the issues which are related to unstructured data and how the unstructured data is going to be dealt in real-time applications. So these are the three major concepts we are going to cover in this session. Now we'll move to the actual syllabus. So in this digital environment or in this digital era, whatever data we are getting or we are generating in real-time applications have been classified into three major categories. That means whatever data that we are using in our daily life or in various applications, the data is going to be classified into three major categories. They are structured data, semi-structured data and unstructured data. Now whatever data we are using in our real-time applications or in daily life, the total digital data is classified into three categories. That is, which is having a structuredness, semi-structuredness and which is not in a structured format, that is unstructured data. Now we will see the detailed information about each and every concept now. So before going into the detailed analysis of each and every digital data, let's have a look on this. So here, if you look at this diagram, this will show the partitioning of the data, that is how much percentage of data is going to be distributed in real-time applications. So here 80% of data will occupy the unstructured data, whereas remaining 10% data will be either semi-structured or unstructured. Now we'll see how this real-time data or unstructured data is coming in very larger scale. Let's have a comparison here. In the year 1970, if we compare, the structured data is placing or it is taking a vital role, whereas unstructured data is only in a smaller case. That means only a little bit of unstructured data is generated in the year 1970s. That is, if we discuss in the form of hexabytes. So when we move to year 2020, if we look at carefully here, there is an exponential growth of unstructured data in real-time environment. That is, exponential growth is taking place in unstructured data. Whereas if we compare the structured data, it is also increased but not in an exponential manner. That means if we compare from 1970 to 2020, there is a huge increase in the unstructured data compared to structured data. And if you look at closely, that means this portion, there is a huge generation of unstructured data which was happened only in the period 2010 to 2020. That means whatever data which is taking a vital position in real-time applications, that is 80 to 90% of data is only unstructured data. Remaining 20 to 10% is either structured or semi-structured. That means this graph will show how the unstructured data is generated or getting generated in our daily life or in real-time applications. Now we will see the detailed information about the structured data. Now when we will call a data as a structured data and why we are calling it as a structured data. If any data which is composed of rows and columns or it is in an organized format, we will call it as a structured data. That means a data which is having or which has been arranged in the form of rows and columns, we can call it as a structured data. That means if we look at this sample employee table, this is an employee ID and it is employee name. That means we started filling employee ID of each and every employee and their relevant name of an employee in a organized manner. This is an example of structured data. And another parameter that we can call it as a structured data is the data will have a relationship. That means a structured data will exist, have a relationship between entities of data such as class and their objects. Let's have a look one small example here. So in this employee table, or you can take an employee database. In this employee table we are having some fields like employee ID, employee name and department. And assume there is one more table which is relevant to a particular department. So in this we will have a employee ID and department name. That means there is a relationship between employee table and department table. So whenever we want to access any information from this employee table, there should be a relation between employee table and department table. That means this employee table will have a relationship with department table. So then only we can access any data which is related to employee table. So that indicates here there should be a relationship between entities of the data such as class and objects. And data which is stored in databases, broadly we can call it as a structured data. So there are three parameters. One is, in structured data, data is going to be organized in the format of rows and columns. When we are calling a data as a structured data, it will have a relationship with classes and objects of the data or the database. And in third case, data stored in databases is an example of structured data. Now we'll see what are the major sources of structured data. So here we'll see the various real-time applications where we are storing data in databases. So here one mostly and commonly used database is Oracle. So here in Oracle we are having various databases like Oracle 8i, 9i, 10g, 11f. Like that we are having various different flavors of databases which are working on the concepts of RDBMS, that is Relational Database Management Systems. And there is one more database which we'll call it as a DB2. This is also a relational database, RDBMS based database which was created by IBM. And there is another large scale database which is used to store enormous amount of data. We'll call it as a Teradata. Teradata came from a company called Teradata itself. And there is another open source tool called MySQL. It is an open source software. It can also be used to store the data in structured format. And there is another database called PostgreSQL which is also used to store the data in the form of RDBMS concepts. That means in all these applications data is going to be stored in the form of rows and columns, and they will follow relationship with class and objects. Other than these databases, we are having one more real-time applications called spreadsheets. So let us have an example called Excel sheet. Excel sheet is one of the basic spreadsheet tool which is used to store the data or to process the data. So in Excel sheet, data is going to be organized in the form of rows and columns. Here we will call it as a cell. The intersection of row and column is called as a cell. Every cell is going to be used to store some amount of information. And another one is OLTP systems, that is online transaction processing. Online transaction processing. It is also one of the mechanism which is used to store real-time data. Example, when we are dealing about banking applications, the day-to-day transactions of banking are going to be stored in this OLTP environment. So these are the major sources of structured data. They are databases like Oracle, DB2, Teradata, MySQL, PostgreSQL, and spreadsheets, OLTP systems. And another one, we will see the examples of structured data. So as we discussed earlier, the basic representation of structured data is in the form of rows and columns. So here we are having 3 columns, like column number 1, 2, 3. The first column is the column name, second one is the type of the data, third one is constraints which are imposed on data type. And we are having 5 rows here. Row number 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So we'll see information regarding few rows. So in first row we are trying to store employee number. Generally employee number can be either a numeric value or it can be a alphanumeric. That means it is combination of both numbers and alphabets. And here to store that alphanumeric, here we are using a data type called varchar2, and here we put one constraint called primary key. Now primary key will help us to avoid duplicates. Like this we can create a data in the form of a tabular representation. So this is one of the fundamental example of structured data. What is an advantage with structured data? What is an advantage with the structured data? Now using structured data we can perform the basic DML operations very effectively. Now what is DML here? DML stands for data manipulation language. So DML is one of the basic command in DBMS concepts. So here using structured data we can perform basic DML operations very effectively. Now what are the DML operations we can perform? We can insert a row, or we can delete a row, or we can update any information from the table. Either we can insert or delete or update. And one more advantage point is the security related. That means structured data will prevent unauthorized usage and unauthorized access of the data. Now how it will impose? Either by providing encryption standards to the data, and it will preserve the sensitiveness of the data, sensitivity of the data. That means using this security option we can protect the confidentiality of the data. That means it will restrict to access the information only based on the level of employee accessing grants of an employee. It will provide the authentications or accessing grants to the employee based on their requirement. And another advantage dealing with structured data is we can create indexes to access data fastly and effectively, and also we can perform basic search operations to retrieve any required element. That means if data has been arranged in structured data, it will be easier for us to create an index or to perform search operations. And one more advantage point is scalability. That means the size of the data is more, it can handle or it can store effectively. That means if the size of the data is getting increased, it doesn't bother about it, it will store the data by expanding its size. And lastly we will see the transaction processing is one of the advantage in structured data. Now the transaction processing we can also call it as ACID properties. ACID stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation and durability. Now we'll see what is atomicity here. Atomicity stands for if you want to commit the transaction, do it 100%. If you don't want to do it 0%. That means there is no possibility of to perform portion of a transaction. If you are doing a transaction, do it completely or commit the transaction. If you are not doing, it will not be considered as part of it. This is called atomicity. And the second one is consistency. That means data which is related to or data which is having a relationship with any other object is called as consistency. Now have a look on this here. Here we are trying to enter age of an employee based on date of birth. Let's have these two values. Here age of an employee is 45. They enter date of birth as 12/8/2020. If we look at individually, both are correct. 12th August 2020 can be date of birth of an employee, or 45 years is can be age of an employee. But if we combine together, there is a mismatch. If this is the date of birth, we can't expect 45 years of age. If this is the correct age, this might be wrong. So there is an inconsistency between date of birth of an employee and age of an employee. So this indicates consistency. While storing data in a structured format, it has to preserve the consistency of the data. And the third one is isolation. So when we are entering any value, we should not leave it empty. So it has to be stored any value. If you are not storing any value, better replace with one default value. That means every instance should have a value, that is called isolation. Now durability. Durability indicates how long the data is going to be in a live status or live condition. That means for every data there should be an end period. Let us have a look. When we are performing a transaction in a banking environment, completion of the transaction will have a timestamp. There is no transaction which is going to be executed in an infinite amount of time. That means every transaction will have a specific timestamp, that is starting of the transaction, ending of the transaction should be reflected and should be stored properly. So these are the basic advantages of dealing with the structured data. So we'll revise it here. The advantages are we can perform DML operations more effectively. It will offer security advantages like providing encryption and sensitivity to the data. Using structured data, we can create indexes and we can perform search operations more effectively. Structured data will offer scalability. That means immaterial of the size of the data, we can store large amount of data in a proper format. And finally, the transaction related activities, which are the most effective part of structured data. They are atomicity, consistency, isolation and durability. Next we will see second type of data, which is called a semi-structured data. Okay, now we will see the second type of data or digital data is semi-structured data. In previous session we have seen structured data. Now we are going to see what is a semi-structured data. The name itself indicates that some portion of data is in a structured manner, remaining is not in a structured manner. Now what is such data? That means data which does not conform add model but has some structure. Let us have an example here. Like markup languages like XML, HTML, these are the best examples of semi-structured data. They will have some structured information, but they may not offer complete structure. And one more example is email. So when we are composing a mail may have a body of the mail, address information that is in the form of mail ID, subject of the mail, and attachments of the mail. These are the various fields which are embedded in a mail. So XML, HTML and email related applications are the best suitable examples of semi-structure. XML, HTML and other markup languages. Now we'll see the examples of semi-structured data, like extensible markup language, that is XML, JSON, JavaScript, object notations, and other markup languages like HTML, DHTML or HTMLS, HTML5 are the examples. Now we'll see a small program, example program here. So how we can call it as a structure, how we cannot call it as a structure. Look at here, if you want to write a HTML program, a basic HTML program, they are suggesting to use a structured information like opening of a tag called HTML, closing of HTML tag. That is, opening and closing of a tag is following a order. Opening or closing of a tag is in a structured manner. Here also the head tag is one of the opening tag and it is also a closing tag. That means all the tags are having an order of opening and order of closing, like body also. Now where is semi-structure here? Whatever content we are writing, let us say here we entered a title called welcome to BDA. Title is the web page title that we are creating using HTML. If you want to write any textual information, it will offer some paragraph notations like header, heading 1, heading 2 and we'll have to heading 6. For every heading, the size of the data is going to be vary. So this is called the semi-structured nature. That means among this sample program, majority of the tags are used in organized format. Remaining information is in a semi-structured format. And we will say sample JSON document here. So here we declared an ID. So ID is a numeric number which stores a value called 9, or you can say tag 9. What we are storing here, we are storing some information like title of the book, that is Fundamentals of Business Analytics, author name Seema Acharya, publisher Wiley India, date of publication 2011. If we compare that HTML and this one, here some structures are in, some labels are in a structured, some are not in a structured format. Look at here. Here first tag is not in a structured format. Whatever variable we can take, you can write it. But if we look at the remaining 4, they have to follow some syntax. Every label should be ended with a colon symbol. And ID is not a default value, you can take any value here. And look at here, all the tags or information is going to be enclosed only in a curly braces. So this is an example of semi-structured data. Next we will see the characteristics of semi-structured data. That means what are the characteristics which are going to be offered in semi-structured environment. First one is, it is an inconsistent structure. That means there is no proper structure for every markup language. If you take an example, like in structured data, every data should be in a tabular format. But whereas in markup language, HTML will have its own format of writing tags, whereas XML is having its own format, JSON is having its own format. Even though all the three are offering markup language web programming tools, but they are different in each other. And another difference thing is, they will have their own describing rules, that is self-describing rules. That means declaring a label will differ in both HTML, XML or JSON. and the schematic information is blended with the data values. That means whatever value or variable we are declaring, it will be associated with a specific amount of value in its designated format. And the last one is data objects may have different attributes not known beforehand. That means when we are writing an XML tag or XML programming, XML will have a self-described tag. That means there are no predefined tags. That means majority of the tags are user defined. That means whatever tag we want to use, we can rename and we can use it based on the user requirement. So these are the basic characteristics of semi-structured data. They are inconsistent structure, they are having self-describing rules, they are having an association or bonding with the data values, and the data objects are not known beforehand. These are the characteristics of semi-structured data.